In a world gone mad, one live stream dares to talk about changes to red alerts. This October, the pilot review show is... live on Saturday night. Stay tuned. Coming up next is Darkblade, Timberwolf, Artie, Neela, and, in a shocking turn of events, Crayo doing double duty as both the announcer and the budget builder. I'll now hand it off to Darkblade.
And greeting, folks. I am Captain Blade J52, otherwise known as Darkblade JK. Yes, we are in fact the same person. But we have some fun stuff to get through for you guys this week, including something that we've actually never before seen in game. We'll talk about that when we get to our Discovery Starter Pack. But let's go ahead and dive into this, shall we? Now, up first and foremost, we actually have the stats of our new Herc Swarmer ships. We have the Herc Multi-Mission Science Vessel. And for this particular ship, you get 4 weapons in the front, 2 in the aft, 3 device slots, Commander Psi, Lieutenant Commander TAC, Lieutenant Engineer, Ensign Universal, Lieutenant Commander Universal / Command. You get 4 tactical consoles, 2 engineering, 5 science, 12 degrees base turn. You get the subsystem targeting and secondary deflector, can load dual cannons. You get the nullifying tractor field. Excuse me there. It's going to get the Science Vessel Mastery Package, which is exotic damage, shield hit points, healing, and shield regen / hardness, and the Hive Bearer Starship trait. The Nullifying Tractor Field, it is the universal console that comes with the ship. It says upon activation, it significantly impairs your target's movement while dealing heavy kinetic damage for the duration. Additionally, it floods the area near the target with energy nullifiers, which chase down the nearest foe and deal phaser damage and massively reduce the target's engine subsystem power of any foes they impact. Provides a passive boost to aux power and maximum hit points. Can also be equipped on any ship, but only one of them can be equipped at a time. Then we have our Hive Bearer trait. It says, while the trait is slotted, you will temporarily spawn an allied swarmer pet whenever you launch your hangar pets, or when one of them is defeated. Each one lasts 60 seconds, or until you kill, or until it's killed. May only have 8 swarmers active at a time. I'm thinking 1 hangar bay. But yeah, that's what we have on that particular ship. Thoughts on this one, folks?
Well, for me, that starship trait for the, what was it, these more or less the science vessel, having a fighter spawn when one of your fighters dies, that'd be nice.
That is cool. It has the potential, I think, so I was doing the math on it, and I think it means you have the potential now to have 17 fighters active at one time if the planets align.
Yes, it's a planets align.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I'm pretty sure that's going to end up being the most you can have out of any carrier and anything else that spawns in pets, short of activating devices.
You know what I see is I see a bunch of people going to the Crenum starbase over there and picking up that 5th space starship trait.
Yeah, I can see that happening. And I should mention as well that this is actually the one out of the low-buy store. So this one is going to be quite a bit easier to get a hold of, actually, than
you'll be
actually dropping it from the box.
You'll be guaranteed to get it, you know, and
exactly.
That's gonna be real nice. I'm already looking to get it because I've got 2 guys that use carriers, you know, and I want to take it on a test drive, see how that works.
Yep. I know I'm not normally a science guy, but I'm actually considering picking this up because it'll give me a good excuse to do another phaser build on a character, so why not? But moving to our second ship, we'll touch base on really quickly. We have the Herc Ravager Escort Carrier. It's a base hull of 39,000 at 40, 52,000 at 60, shield modifier of 0.9, 5 forward weapons, 2 aft weapons, a Lieutenant Commander Tactical / Pilot, Commander Tactical, Ensign Science, Lieutenant Universal, and Lieutenant Commander Universal. So that's going to get interesting. 5 Tactical, 3 Engineering, 3 Science for console, 16 degrees base turn, can obviously use cannons. Comes with the experimental weapon slot equipped with a rapid pulse ablating mining laser. Good luck saying that 10 times fast. Then it's getting the Escort Carrier Mastery Package. Also comes with 1 hangar bay. Then the Herc Ravager Carrier comes equipped with the Amplifying Ravager Beam Universal Console. Then it's actually says activating a powerful burst of energy will fire directly in front of your ship for a short duration, dealing significant kinetic damage to all foes caught in the path. Console provides passive boost to your weapon power and phaser weapon damage. Can be equipped on any ship, but only 1 active at a time. And then the experimental weapon is designed to focus down 1 target, dealing rapid pulses of heavy kinetic damage and gaining increased armor pen the longer it fires on the same spot. And then touch base on the Starship trait really quickly, and then I believe our good Timberwolf actually has some potential numbers for us here. But this is after achieving level 5 in the Herc Ravager Escort Carrier, says you will unlock the Nullifier Warheads Starship trait. And while it's slotted, activating any torpedo ability such as high yield or spread will launch a flood of nullifiers around your ship. And then, yeah, that's pretty much what we have on this one. So yeah, comments from you guys.
Looks nifty.
Yeah, more ships. More ships are always good.
But, what's some thoughts from you, good Timber? Some good theory crafting you got for us.
Well, I was able to actually snap a few photos during the live stream, so I was actually able to get, when they were showing off everything. Because one of the things not stated in the blog is there is a set bonus that they're putting in with these 2 new ship consoles and the Vecrid that we got from the promo pack. So there's a 3 set for the consoles. When it comes to Hive Bearer, you can have up to 9 swarmers at a time. So I'm thinking if you've got those hangar bay pets where you can have 6 per hangar, 12 plus 9, so that's 21. Get all 9 of the swarmers plus your 12 pets. That's 21 just from those 2. And I know there's other ways to get pets besides those 2 options. So you literally could have a small battle fleet of your own pets if you're using Hive Bearer. Potentially. Nullifier warheads, what it's saying is whenever you do a torpedo firing mode, you get 8 nullifiers. And those nullifiers are going to react the same way that they did when you activated the Vecrid console, so they're not just sitting still. They'll actually, if they're close to an enemy, they'll seek out a target and blow up, causing phaser damage. So you can always pair it with the Vecrid console, and pretty much you're spawning off enough nullifiers. If someone's trying to do spread fire against you because, let's say, you're using a targetable torpedo, chances are most of their spread fire is going to be hitting the nullifiers and not that torpedo. So it's something one of the devs brought up that helped code this. This would be good if you love to use like tricobalts or the Romulan plasma torpedoes. Pop off a whole bunch of these nullifiers, less likely the enemy, especially the NPCs, are going to hit the torpedo. They might hit a nullifier instead. It helps further guarantee the torpedo makes it to the target. That's something to think about. Your Ravager Beam is a 15% Category 1 phaser damage boost, and you get from 0 to +6 weapon power, and it scales up as the power decreases. Pretty much you're getting 15% phaser damage, and the damage it's doing, it's over 5 seconds, and it's kinetic damage 5 times a second. I did the, from what the number they showed me on screen, I did the calculations, and you're looking at about 19k kinetic over that 5 seconds, so it's almost, I'd say, consistent with a normal lance, in a sense. It's just a drilling kinetic, if I'm not mistaken. Your nullifying tractor beam is giving you about, and it's a little fuzzy on the photo I have, but it's about 8.5% max hull cap with an aux power boost as it scales. And then it is kinetic damage for kinetic damage twice a second, which the numbers I'm getting are about 1240, so a little over 1200 a second, because it's activating twice a second. For 10 seconds, it ignores shields, reduces turn rate and flight speed, and disables cloak. So it's really a very high-powered tractor beam. The set bonuses they put in are, if you're using 2 pieces, you get 10% flight speed and 10% turn rate. If you're using all 3 pieces, it is a passive broadcast. It affects friend and self up to 20 maximum. It +1 to +20% all damage, and +1 to +20 accuracy rating. And it's based on the number of allies with the same target. So if you've got all these pets and you've got them focused on one target, let's say attack cube or a gateway or Denatra at the end of Kittimer Vortex or what have you, if you're all facing the same target, it's going to be a 20% all damage and 20 accuracy rating boost to yourself and to all the ally targets that are around you, targeting that same target. If you're liking to do a lot of pets, you're trying to boost your pets even further with these set bonuses, or you like doing a lot of builds that help your teammates, this console set could work for you.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see these things having some very good uses from what we're hearing here.
The Rapid Pulse Ablating Mine Laser. It does low damage. He gave a number of 300 kinetic damage times 3 per second, so 900 per second for 7 seconds. But it's big to do is it starts off with 0 armor pin, but the longer it's firing on a target, it can go up to 50 armor pin.
Wow.
Now, that's a significant amount of armor pin for a weapon, especially if you're going towards a heavy target on, let's say, advanced or especially elite difficulty. You have plenty of time to build that up. The 50 armor pin is nothing to sneeze at.
I want to ask maybe what is a dumb question here, but you know, you obviously get weapons with shield pen and so that sort of thing. What exactly is armor pen? Can you TLDR it, I guess is what I'm asking. Like, is it penetrating both shields and hull? Is it better on shields than it is on hull?
Armor is more for hull pin. Armor pin and hull pin are pretty much the same thing, only the conversion rate. So if you have 50 armor pin, equivalent to 500 hull pin.
Dang. Okay, so yeah, so once you get them shields down, that thing's just going to evaporate.
Yeah, because you got your shield pin from other sources, but if you're getting 50 armor pin, it's equivalent to, if I remember correctly, the skill tree does hull pin. And going on that, 50 armor pin would be equivalent to 500 hull pin in your skill tree. Most I remember correctly, you only get 100 if you back all the way up in it. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not looking at it directly, but that's the conversion. Where, you know, let's say for instance you're using one of the what are the, I think it's not the K13, it's the, what is it, the research lab consoles that give hull pin and they give the specialist cooldown. Yeah, those, I think those are the research lab consoles, the engineering consoles. Nope, I'm wrong. K13. My bad. It's been a long day. I'm sorry, guys and gals. K13 consoles, if you epic them out, they only give about, I think it's 39.4 hull pin per console. Well, conversion rate wise, that's only 3.9 armor pen for a reference. Whereas over time, this thing's going to give you 50 armor pens. This thing, after in continuous combat against a heavy target, especially in elite content, this might end up being a good heavy weapon for elite content. It's going to start hitting like a truck over time.
Yeah, definitely sounding like we got some good stuff coming down the pipes.
The one thing I do want to state that was not in this blog, though, Chris,
Okay.
I snapped a photo of the new phaser weapons.
Okay.
Your big thing for these phaser weapons, I mean, they're not. It's once again based on procs. I mean, if you're going for something that just hits hard, sensor linked. Your sensor linked, integrity linked, because it's just phaser damage. Not worried about a proc. Most people do go for these. But for phasic harmonic weaponry, you've got 2 procs on these new phasers. You've got a disable for 2.5 seconds once every 10 seconds, but you can completely disable your target for 2.5 seconds. Other proc is a kinetic damage per second for 7.5 seconds that completely ignores shields. So you can disable your target for 2.5 seconds, but for 7.5, you're doing kinetic damage that ignores your shields. It just goes straight to hull. So a dot and a disable, both on a phaser, is not bad. It's just proc rates are not that great.
Yeah, that's... sounds like we've got a lot of good stuff coming down the pipes, but yeah, definitely check that out, guys. This is some of the stuff coming with the new lockbox, but some of the stuff we did kind of talk a little bit longer than what we intended to on this, but some very significant stuff coming with this we did want to touch base on. But definitely check this out. Hopefully you're able to get your hands on a ship opening day. But moving right along, we actually have the first of our RP blogs this evening, which is the day everything changed.
Yep. Alright, so this more or less takes place on Starfleet Academy right as the Battle of the Binary Stars happened. Like, as you're reading the story, you will see when the news hits home about the battle. And you'll see how all these cadets that you see throughout this little short story react and how they're feeling from before, as well as during and then after they're told that they're going to war. So I recommend it to read it. It's a really nice little story, and I feel like it'll get us more into the feeling of how the cadets would react once we get into the new expansion. So.
Alrighty then.
Cool.
Hey. Yep, so Neela's going to be ducking out early this evening, folks. I'm assuming there's a storm in your area. But,
Yes,
that's...
yeah, power just flickered and just had a loud crack of thunder.
Yep.
Just stay safe.
Be
dude.
safe, good sir.
Good luck.
Yep. Be safe, good sir, and hopefully we'll have you back next week.
Before I go, the Empire's time has come.
User disconnected
Yeah.
from your channel.
And there we go. But yeah. Anyways, yeah, definitely hope he is safe and whatnot. I'm sure he will be. But continuing along, whatnot, like I said, we don't really want to spoil anything much with the RP blog, so we're going to move ahead and discuss our Red Alert weekends. And this is one of the ones that I know is kind of controversial, but we'll
Have a document on it.
yeah. We'll go ahead and we'll introduce what they're doing is basically in a nutshell. The Red Alerts are moving to weekend-specific events. So that's one of the big things they're doing. We've got one going right now from the 4th until the 8th. So that is actually going to be, I believe, Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. So, oh no, Monday. Derp. Would help if I actually read the blog. But, Yeah, that's one of the very big things they're doing. They're removing the cooldown from the red alerts, and now you get 35 marks each time you go in. So, it's one of the more controversial changes that they've done. But I want to get some thoughts from you guys, and then I'll give my own thoughts on this.
Well, I'll begin by saying, no, sir, I don't like it. But that's only because I think they fired this a little too early. I think everybody would have had a better reaction if they'd waited till next weekend to do this, once the TFOs go live. But my biggest criticism of the random things, whatever they're called, is that we don't have... We desperately need a vote kick, and we desperately need to where the first person, or maybe first two people to leave, get a penalty. Everybody else either gets reinforced or, can just leave and start over. That's two things that really needs to change. And at that point, the game, I think, in my opinion, will be fine. But I just think they pulled the trigger on this too early.
Fair enough.
I'll have to agree with that, but I do like there is no cooldown on it, that you can just basically keep on farming as the event goes on.
Yes, but they also took away the daily bonus as a result.
That is a good point to bring up, too.
And so, so ultimately now, you run enough to get 30 marks for every one of the reputations that are represented, and instead of 60. So it kind of halves the amount that you get for the same amount of time, which, I mean, if you're going to do it daily anyway, but it was nice to be able to run it and then get 2 days worth of marks, so I could actually take a little time off from the game,
I can see both arguments there. What about you, Sir Timber?
Well, should I start with the good or the bad?
Surprise us.
Okay, because I've got a little bit of both. I mean, it is controversial to say the least. I was not happy to hear it's going to event only, because after this weekend, we won't have them there. They won't pop up again until they're an event, which is kind of, if I remember correctly, and Neela would be here to verify it, if not for weather, but if I'm not mistaken, this is how it is on console. They only have red alerts on the weekend. It kind of puts us...
Typically, yes.
It's going to put us to where they are. Which sucks, as Crayo says. You get your daily bonus, and for some reputations, and I'm going to state the two that pop into my mind the most, Lucari and competitive war games. For the most part, the public random pickup group you just queue up for Lucari marks and competitive war games are kind of all but dead. Like, they might be alive and well in private systems, but if you were to do a public random queue of anything in competitive war games, you'd be lucky if you get one queue every several days. It's kind of the same with Lucari, unless you're going for like normal. That might happen slightly more often. But pretty much red alerts are your main source to get these. With a daily, maybe 70 to 80, you're lucky on the red alert, which does help. Because eventually, once you stockpile, you can trade them in for elite marks. Take care of it that way. For me, I saw it as a con there. But because Blade loves to hire me to test things, still waiting on that second check though. But I went ahead and I tested it, and I tested it for an hour because I figured, why the hell not? If this is how it's going to be, I'd run the numbers. And going on an average of 2 minutes per run, and that's including you warping out of the Borg red alert, that's what I used, warping out, queuing up and getting back in, and actually running it. An average of 2 minutes is what I was seeing. So 30 runs an hour will net you roughly, and I'm using the marks bonus, so my numbers are a little bit higher than what you might see. I'm getting 42 marks every run with the reputation mark bonus. With 42 marks a run, I'm seeing a little over 1,200 marks of my choice every hour. And I'm also seeing a little over 14k dilithium every hour. Now that does require you to run them like gangbusters, and you literally are at that point, you're just grinding marks. But in the case of the queues that you can't normally run, especially competitive war games, because that requires 10 people, queue up unless you've got a group of 10 waiting. On one of these weekends, you can knock out all the marks you need to level up competitive war games, get any gear you want, like level up to tier 6 after Age of Discovery, get all the gear you want and everything, and you might spend an hour, probably an hour and a half to 2 hours doing it. Now that's a lot of dedication, but at least you're able to stack it up. I'll give it credit there.
Yeah, I mean, those are good points and all, but it still doesn't, you know, here's the other problem that I have with the system is that, like, Nukara, for example, requires an environmental suit. What do you do if you forget yours? Do you have to sit the match out?
Well, this is only for the red alerts, so we're only dealing with fighting Tholians, Ilachi, Borg, Ors, and Kethi in space.
No, that's true, that's true.
And like I said, I'm used to doing the dailies, and it basically is going to take you 2 of these red alerts with no cooldown to get the same as 1 previously with a cooldown and a daily. It just depends on the time constraints, and I think that's what the big thing for a lot of players is going to be, is time constraint. How much time are you going to have on these weekends to literally grind out the marks that you need? Big thing is, how much time do you have? But what I do like is you're getting dilithium every time, so if you are able to do this for a long stint, you're going to have a lot of unrefined dilithium, where after maybe several hours of doing it, if you have that kind of time, you've got weeks worth of dilithium to refine, where you don't have to worry about dilithium grinding for a while. Just, log in and click and refine.
But
That does help.
I'm gonna stop you and argue that dilithium is not as important as marks when you're trying to get all 75 reputations that we have to tier 6.
I agree. That's why I was, I'm not happy you can't at least get the bonus. I would like us to get the bonus first and then have the 35. That's why I just say, if you have the time, it won't be as bad, but if you are stuck to a minimal amount of time every day, this will probably hurt you in the long run.
Yeah.
But the other bonus I will say, as far as a positive, is if I use the calendar on Tribble as any indication of what this is going to look like, it looks like these weekends are going to happen every 2 to 3 weeks tops. Because the way the calendar is written on Tribble right now is we have this weekend, next week is Age of Discovery, the following week, we'll only be a week and a half into Age of Discovery, there's going to be another Red Alert weekend where you can do this again. So, and then there's one that looks like it's the end of October, beginning of November. So there's 3 Red Alert weekends on the calendar on Tribble, and if that's representative of what's going to happen on Holodeck, at least they're happening at a regular basis, where you can make up for any lost marks potentially? Question mark? But at least they're happening often. That's what I'm hoping they're going for. If it's happening that regularly, on top of anything else that might happen at the same time that can give you bonus marks, that's going to be a good thing. Because I can see the potential of Crystalline Catastrophe, you get your Nukara bonus there, and then you do a few red alerts on that first weekend, and you get a few extra marks there.
Well, and it's my understanding that this is designed to make people want to, or to make people play the queues more often. But in reality, what I suspect will happen is that people who would spend an hour or 2 every night to get 2 days worth of marks are instead going to just not play until the weekend and then just blow out a week's worth of marks every weekend.
And that's probably what's going to happen. I mean, it's one of my negatives that I'll agree with you on that point, Crayo, is, instead of having to wait and try to queue up for competitive war games or gravity kills for Lucari or anything like that, wait for the weekend and grind it out. Because it's going to be easier to try and grind out a few hours worth of those marks and use some of them to convert them over a few days to get the elite marks than it will the headache of doing a public queue of anything for the Lucari or competitive war games. Some of these marks are easy to get even without this weekend, and some of them are quite difficult to do nowadays unless you have an active fleet or a lot of people on your friends list that are willing to do private queues. So it's just going to depend on what you're going after.
I think that's some good arguments to be made on both sides. I will say I have to agree with you, gents, is that I do think that they pulled the trigger on this a little bit early, which I think pretty much all of us are in agreement on. But
yeah, I'll agree on that one with Crayo and Artie. If they would have waited till after Age of Discovery, because we know some people are going to power level that level 1 toon and try to get it ready. Some people would have been ready by next weekend to do that. So, yeah.
But you think, and this is something too for me, is we know that they've been going to revamp the queues. They've talked about it before. They've even mentioned it on stream that some of the stuff that they're going to be doing is reworking the queues. They've been keeping an eye on it. And a lot of the stuff with that's going to be coming with Age of Discovery. So it's going to be coming this Tuesday anyway. And this, to me, by releasing this early, while I believe it's well-intentioned, actually is going to send sort of the wrong message in this case to a lot of people that don't get on Tribble as much as some of us here on the show might do. And they're going to think, well,
and the response
they're reducing
is typically tone deaf from them as well. It's sort of like we have a master plan, and it just doesn't seem like they're super interested in interacting with people. I mean, even if they just come out and tweeted, "Look, we're sorry," or just said, "This is happening now, but trust us. Just wait till Tuesday." That would have been better than nothing.
And that's, I mean, you can argue that, and that's a fair point to make, which I think, like I say, ultimately at the end of the day, for me, it's more of a wait and see what the final finished product is going to be, because there's only so much that we have right now on Age of Discovery till we actually have it in our hands. We're not going to know, all the little tiny details that we might with other stuff, with a normal type of expansion, if you kind of see where I'm going with that. But overall, that is, some of our thoughts on the red alerts. But, yeah. So, for our red alerts, we'll have that in the notes for you guys. And, like I say, let us know some of your thoughts, too, maybe, on this. Do you guys like it? Do you not like it? And everything. But, moving right along, we have our second RP blog, which is our Jasus Interstellar, the Walker class crash mobilization.
Alright, so the Battle of the Binary Stars has literally just happened a week ago. Starfleet's preparing to get all ships mobilized to get on the front lines fighting the Klingons. But to find out, Starfleet's not prepared at all. So we're having to step up production for all sorts of starships and left, right, and center, but that would take months on end just to build another starship. So what do? We just bring out our old mothball ships back from almost late, almost about 30-some years before the Battle of the Binary Stars happened, which in this case would be the Walker class. So this little excerpt talks about what the Walker class actually is a little bit, and why Starfleet kind of just pushed them back out into service to basically be their frontline ship before their new ships get into play. So that's basically that.
So pretty much what they've done in almost every century at some point?
Yes, every big conflict they've had, they pushed out the all mothball ships, as you would see in the Dominion War. You have that Yeager as well as the Curry class.
Unless we not forget that random Constitution refit that showed up at Wolf 359.
Let's not forget that one.
That is true too.
But yeah.
But anyways, that's our second RP blog of the evening. But we'll have that in the notes and whatnot for you guys, so you can check that out. But moving right along, we actually have our Season 2 trailer for Discovery. I've not really had a chance to get too much into this yet, but thoughts from you guys on this?
I'm liking what I'm seeing, and I know Artie is too.
Oh yeah.
Not a fan of Discovery here, so I refuse to comment.
It's understandable. I mean, hell, Discovery is a polarizing subject nowadays, but then again, Voyager was at one point in its history.
Well, and to be fair, I didn't care for Enterprise when it came out, but after it was canceled, it was like, oh, they canceled it, and then I went back and watched it.
Yeah.
I feel
honestly,
like it's along the line. Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine. I think in the long run, Discovery is going to end up being that same way. People are going to go like, "Aw," and then because they'll have a new show that they don't like, and they're going to hate it, and then it's a cycle that repeats.
And here's the thing too: is everybody knows the first season of any Star Trek is kind of rubbish. So I'm skipping ahead to the good stuff here, maybe.
I mean, yeah. If people want to complain about Discovery, let's look at season 1, Next Generation. That wasn't exactly a diamond in the rough. Just saying.
It's always good to go back and watch it, though. It's the funny thing.
Watch it, but don't say season 1 NG was the most phenomenal season ever, or parts of season 1 DS9 was the most phenomenal ever.
I am a dark black inky blob, and I'm going to eat your security officer because I feel like it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But I do like where they're going with this. It was interesting to see who they cast as number 1, which it looks like, even just from the trailer, it looks like she's going to be doing a fairly and faithful recreation of Mayshell Roddenberry, which is going to be nice. Interesting to see Spock with a beard at that young age, all things considered. But my big question is, since they had to say what they thought it looked like in the imagery, just what is that red angel going to be?
Some interesting thoughts.
I will say, as somewhat of a funny, but being very truthful, the scenes are not at dark. I can actually see the sets.
Yeah.
Not that the season 1 was actually, it's all grim and dark. That's not what I'm getting at. I just wish they would have a light on the set for once. And then what I can tell from the trailer, they have lights on the set, so I'm fine.
Yeah. And I think season 1 was their, like Paul said, I think it was their feeling out point. I do think this is going to end up being a better season. Granted, right now, from what we're piecing together, it sounds like a weird premise, but I mean, hell, they've probably done weirder, and we just haven't, thought about it. We haven't seen what's coming yet.
True.
So, it's going to be interesting to see. I watched the short trek for Tilly last night. It was an interesting mini episode. So, I mean, it's not like they have bad writing. It's just because of how newer Trek is coming out to bring in newer fans versus what the older fans are looking for in it. Eventually it'll just become like Enterprise, and you're like, aw, we want season 5.
Yeah.
Which, I think, too, I can see why Discovery's not everyone's cup of tea.
Earl Grey hot.
But, everybody has their preferences as far as that, and, like, some people aren't really particularly fans of the original series. You've got some that, they prefer TNG more, or some that put Voyager as their favorite. But, I guess it'll be interesting to see how Season 2 turns out. But, moving right along, we have our Fighting in a Burning House blog.
So, in this RP blog, we have basically the Klingon point of view during bits of the Federation Klingon War. After the Battle of Binary Stars, you have multiple different Klingon groups banding together to go bloody the nose of the Federation. So, we get a little bit into some of the little politics here and there, as well as some of the actual cultural references that would lead to what we see both in Age of Discovery and what we've also seen in Season 1 of Discovery. So I do like what I see in the little RP blog. It gives us more of a better perspective of the Klingons in this era. But I just can't express all that because I'm not too knowledgeable in a lot of Klingon stuff, but it does feel like a good, solid stepping stone, really, for what we'll get into with Age of Discovery, I feel like.
Now, something I forgot to mention, Artie, that
Yes?
I just remembered from the new trailer. and one reason why people have not liked Discovery. Anybody that hasn't watched it yet, watch the Season 2 trailer. A lot of people have said they have fixed, quote-unquote, the Klingons in Season 2.
Okay.
As far as how their looks, they finally have hair, and there is a 2 to 3 second reference. They show a holographic creation of the D7 battlecruiser, as far as it looks like they're designing it. It's about to go into production. A true D7.
See, my first problem with this show was the paywall, but then my second problem became the lack of attention to detail. I mean, come on, it's supposed to be Prime Universe. Use some Prime Universe elements.
It looks like they're trying to put them all in now.
Funny
Down
enough,
for the win.
funny enough, with this RP blog, you do get a good picture of what the Klingons look like.
Indeed.
Yeah, I
you
did
do.
see it, and I was like, hey, that looks different.
Mm-hmm.
But, anyways, like I said, we don't want to spoil too much with these blogs, so we're kind of skimming a little bit with these. But we'll have this in the notes. You guys can check that out, read it at your own convenience. Highly recommend you do it, because this is actually one of the better RP blogs out of this bunch, I think. Moving along, we have our PC patch notes for the 3rd, and there's only really a few of them. But red alerts have been changed to special weekend events. Cooldowns have been removed from these. Rewards have also been restructured, and then they give us more details in the red alert blog. Yeah, that's pretty much our patch notes.
Yeah, we
One
don't
of our
really
longer
want
patch
to do
notes in a
anything
while.
this weekend.
Yeah. So, not really much on patch notes this week, but once our Age of Discovery hits, I'm sure there'll be maybe a couple of patches to correct any bugs that are found. So, we'll see, I guess. But, moving along to the Piece de Resistance, this is one thing I wanted to talk about for sure, is because it actually gives us something that we've not seen in-game before. And we'll touch base on that in just a second, but basically what they're bringing out is it's going to be a Discovery Starter Pack that will be available for a limited time at the introductory price of 750 Zen, or later on at the normal price of 1500 Zen, and it's a Discovery Era Starting Pack. It's going to give us 12 inventory slots, a large XP booster of 150,000 experience points, a Discovery Era Phaser Sniper Rifle, and a Discovery Era Phaser Stun Bolt Pistol, a Tardigrade Vanity Pet, and a Walker-class Prototype Light Exploration Cruiser. Again, good luck saying that 10 times fast. And a brand new Scaling Starship, which is what this Walker is going to be.
Wait,
So, in a nutshell...
Scaling Starship, did I hear you right?
Yes.
Oh, you heard that right, good sir. Basically, it's going to start out at a Tier 1, and its stats will scale all the way to Tier 4. So, all the way up to level 30 at least, off of one ship.
Ooh, that could be really cool, especially if they retrofit that to some, like, Mirandas and stuff.
Well, the interesting thing about this ship, and it's something that people have actually started to ask about, I've even seen it on my channel at this point, is they wanted a ship that scales with them so they don't have to keep investing in other ships. But the way they've stated this is you can use this ship the moment you leave the tutorial. If you're not even level 10, reach the tutorial, you can go straight from using that Malachowski class, which has 2 weapons forward, 1 aft. You're maybe level 8, and now you have a ship that has 4 forward and 3 aft weapons, and you've got a whole lot more console slots, and it's going to stay that way until you get to, you know, where you're getting basically one of those level 40 tier 5 ships, basically your Sovereign or your Defiant, if I remember correctly. So you're actually going to be outgunning for the content, probably out surviving it, based on the fact you're starting off a lot better off starship wise.
Yeah, this... Oh, go
I
ahead.
was going to say it sounds pretty freaking cool. I'd love to see that, if it works well, I'd love to see that retrofit into some other zero tier ships, just because that just would be cool. I'd love to see that for ships that you buy, but I don't know if that would happen.
One question I do have, Blade, and I don't know if you've heard anything, because I know the ship scales, but do the weapons on it scale up with the ship? Because that's the only time we've ever seen that is the Tier 1 Connie. It comes with level-less phasers that are useful all the way up to, I believe, Mark 11.
At this point in time, I'm going to assume no, mainly because there's not been anything said about it, and if there has been, I've missed it. But yeah, like I say, just assume no at this point. And of course, I could be wrong about that, so we kind of have to wait and see on that one, I believe.
As if everything goes the way it's looking, your best two purchases as a new player, if you're starting off brand new, is you grab the Tier 1 Constitution class, because it's a decent ship, but you also get those level-less phasers that you can claim multiple pairs of, and you claim this Discovery Pack. You pop those level-less phasers on this ship, you won't even have to change out weapons until you're level 40. So not only the starship can stay, but also the weapons can stay. So you're doing a good chunk of your leveling with one starship and one set of weapons.
Which is a very huge deal in today's game. So yeah, then I think at that point, really all people would need is, at some point, maybe a level-less set of space gear, like shields, engines, warp core, that kind of jazz.
You mean like the Aegis set, sir? Or is it no longer level-less?
It is no longer level-less.
Oh, no.
But the way this is gearing out...
That would have been a good option.
Yeah, if the way this is gearing out, you get like... I mean, they do promos all the time where you can get boxes that you unlock gear for every 10 levels. They've done that multiple times now. That'll probably come out with the Humble Bundle at some point even. But I mean, it's getting to the point now, just a couple of very small purchases. I mean, right now between those two, it's only 1,250 Zen. Not much considering everything. Between the two packs, buying the Tier 1 Connie and this, you're getting a lot of return on investment from those two. So that's actually not that bad considering most of the stuff's going to stick with you through most of your leveling career until you almost get to endgame. That's not really bad at all.
Well, even at the regular price of 1,500 Zen, which is what it'll be once the introductory period's over, you figure even at that point, let's say 2,000 Zen to get the Tier 1 Connie and to get this pack, and that's going to give you the level-less phasers, it's going to give you this ship, all the nice little goodies to go with it, and then, like say your EC cap limit, what is that, like 500 Zen? What is that? I can't remember off the top of my head.
I think it's like 500 Zen. Get what the...
Okay, so...
150k XP boost?
So let's say roughly 3,000 Zen, so maybe a one-time purchase of $30 total, and you're getting all that. That's a pretty good deal.
It's a steal at this
and
point.
that's also assuming that you go for just the straight EC cap and you don't buy the starter pack. So, well, even if say you did buy the starter pack and this, and say 3,500 Zen total, but for the record, I mean the previous starter pack that they introduced. But yeah, pretty interesting stuff. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I hope it works out good because, like you guys said, there are some other ships I would love to see get the scaling treatment. But moving to our final RP blog of the evening, we have the Utopia Planitia, Mystery of Yard 39.
Alright, so this actually takes place in our current timeline at the present day story, not back in Discovery era. This actually is between a couple of engineers talking about the current issue with needing starships and whatnot, and one of them mentions about this Yard 39, where all these different Discovery era ships were basically laid out and were stuck there due to a weird stellar phenomena that's been closing them out for the past 150 years. And that's where I'll stop with that before I get into too much spoiling, but it is a really good read of how we actually would get these ships in modern day, and their explanation, more or less, to why we would use them with current technology. So it's a really nice attach with it.
Okay. Yeah, like we say, we don't want to say too much on this because we don't really want to spoil anything for anybody that would like to read it for themselves. But we'll have this in the description for you guys. And now, coming up on our budget builds section this evening, we actually have sort of an offshoot of last week's budget build, which is our Steam Runner. And we have a theme build for that this evening, and Crayo, good sir, since it is your build, take it away.
Alright, so to everyone watching and listening, I'm going to apologize in advance. I have been fighting some kind of sinus/head cold thing all week, so I may have to pause a few times here, and if you guys want to chime in with questions during my pauses, that'd be fantastic. So, ultimately, last week, looking at that tank build, I started to thinking, okay, it's a cool build and all, but this is an escort, and this is an escort that's built like a cat. You ever notice how the cat, a house cat, always seems to have 5 pointy ends, and they're all pointed at you when you don't want them to be? So I'm looking at the Steam Runner, I'm thinking, we gotta build a DPS build on this. And my thing is, I am always into weird, exotic stuff, out of the mainstream. So tonight's build is fully a budget build. I sure hope that you guys don't mind rerunning some missions, especially Sunrise and Scylla and Charybdis, because you will rerun them a few times. And I think, and this is a build that you can pretty much almost get absolutely free. And of course we'll post it later so you can go over it in the notes and exactly what missions you need to run and everything. The only things on here that you can't really get for free would be red matter capacitor and the board console, which comes from the board reputation. And those are relatively easy to get. And the reason I put red matter capacitor on there is because when I made the build, Phoenix event was going on, and in 10 Phoenix boxes, you're going to get a blue Phoenix reward, and you should have a red matter capacitor for the power level boost anyway. So let's jump right into it. So it's a Steam Runner. It's a DPS build. It's got cannons, it's got beams, and it's got torpedoes. Now, the more DPS astute of you out there are going, oh no, this is going to be terrible. But I want to point out that this build with better gear, not the free gear, crafted gear and better tac consoles, got me back into the 75K channel the other day. So it's all about piloting sometimes. So ultimately you've got your T5U Blockade Runner Escort, and for forward weapons, and you have to forgive me, this is my first time doing a budget build, so I might get some of this a little bit out of sync, so just replay it if you miss it. For forward weapons, we have a rare phaser beam array Mark 11 with crit D2. Now this comes from the mission Everything Old is New. We also have the quantum phase dual heavy cannons, and we
disconnected from your channel.
And we have a very rare dual phaser beam bank Mark 12, and that comes from Sunrise. And then, of course, we have the quantum phase torpedo. Why quantum phase? Well, it's phaser weapons, and even though they're the wrong color, they're still phasers, and phasers are Starfleet's canonical weapon. It's a Steam Runner. It needs to shoot phasers, I mean, you can put whatever you want on here, but this is just how it looks good. The next thing I got was the Bajor Defense set. Now, this is the deflector, the impulse, and the shield. So deflector, engines, and shield. And bonus points if you've ever completed the event to get the Bajoran Interceptor, you have access to the Bajoran Warp Core. So definitely run that 4-piece if you have access to the Bajoran Interceptor. If you don't have access, you'll want to get a hold of the Temporal Phase Overcharge Warp Core, which comes from, I think, Butterfly? I can't remember.
That is correct.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So all mission reward gear here, and of course if you was to upgrade it, if you was to spend any Phoenix upgrades on it, it's going to just be that much better. So up front we've got a beam array, we've got a dual heavy cannon, we have a dual beam bank, and we have a quantum torpedo. We have a Bejor defense set. What do we put in the back? Well, it's very simple. We're going to be running beams and cannon abilities. So on the back we've got 2 phaser turrets, which you can get from Sunrise. So you'll be running Sunrise a lot. And there is the Omni Trilithium Enhanced Omni Beam Array from Beyond the Nexus. And so that's a nice Omni Beam Array. So when you are flying this build, you're going to want to keep the front of the ship pointed at the enemy as much as possible. And you're going to be running Torpedo Spread 3, Beam Fire at Will 3, and Cannon Scatter Volley 3. This is going to do such tremendous amounts of AoE damage that if we're very lucky, your opening volley, your opening salvo, is going to eliminate the enemies that are in front of you. Now, this may not always be the case in an ISA, an advanced, or an expert queue, but if you're doing normal content, if you're doing normal STFs, if you're doing normal missions, it's gonna take care of everything for you. And the turrets, the cannons, they're going to strip the shields right off the enemy. The beams are going to just slice through the hull, and whatever's left will be nailed by a torpedo volley, and it'll just be dead. Moving on to devices, we have pretty much any battery you want. I like a weapons battery, and the red matter capacitor, of course, for power levels. Got to get those power levels up to do that beam and cannon damage. For engineering consoles, I actually have a universal assimilated module, of course, for the crit H and crit D, and the other benefits that it provides. Reinforced armaments. So the reinforced armaments console, one second. Sorry about that. Like I said, fighting a head cold here, and sometimes you got to cough. So reinforced armaments is another mission reward, and it comes from Beyond the Nexus, along with the Trilithium Enhanced Omni Beam Array. So they are a set, and one of the set bonuses of that, when you put the two of them together, is 5% firing cycle haste for energy weapons, which is always good, especially when you got cannons and beams. They're going to be on fire at will. They're going to be all over the place. And there's plus 15 flight speed, which is cool, I guess, but not really a DPS enhancer here. The reinforced armaments console itself is plus 53.3% power transfer rate, and you always got to, EPS is DPS, keep those power levels up. Plus, it improves hull healing and starship maximum hit points. So this thing is kind of a glass cannon, so any little bit that we can get is kind of nice to have, especially paired with a power transfer rate console. So that's why we've got reinforced armaments on there. Next up on the hit parade is the quantum phase converter. So the reason for this, of course, is it's plus phaser damage, and it's part of the set with the cannon and the torpedo. Not to mention that it increases your aux power, which is an important consideration we'll get to in a minute. It does also some starship drain, but we don't really have any drain abilities on here, so that's not really going to do a whole lot for us. Set powers, since we have the 3-piece set, is plus 15% to accuracy, which is going to be nice for our cannons. And it doubles the potency of the quantum phase weapons shield drain. It doubles the potency of the quantum phase high yield torpedo shield heal. So that's kind of nice. If I remember correctly, the torpedo self heals, doesn't it, when you fire it, Darkblade? Like it heals the player?
Yeah, it drains a little bit from the enemy and then it heals you as well. And it does that off of the cannon itself, too.
Yeah, so having that, that's always nice to get a little bit back, for your investment. But then it also comes with a quantum destabilizing beam, which, as I recall, has a 2-minute cooldown, but it's basically a phaser lance for free. And if you keep that in your rotation and keep popping it on the enemy, especially if their shields are down, if you can hit bare hull with that thing, it can crit for an awful lot of damage. And so that's just a real nice, super nice bonus there. Our next engineering and our last engineering console is the Bio-Neural Gel Pack.
Now, I may add really quickly that the Quantum Phase 3-piece can also be boosted, although it doesn't actually say it in the description, can actually be boosted by any phaser buffs that you may have on the ship. so that's going to up the damage on that even more.
Oh, nice. So, Bioneural Gel Pack. The reason we have this is mostly for cooldown reduction. 7% cooldown reduction on Bridge Officer abilities. Since we can't run Intel abilities, and my favorite, of course, is Override Subsystem Safeties for the extra power, and we can't. I'm assuming that you don't have traits for, the big three traits, the all hands on deck, and those that you may have heard of for reducing your cooldown. We're doing as best we can with what we've got between personal traits and starship traits and consoles to get those cooldowns as close to global as possible. It's not fantastic, but it's better than nothing. It also adds some shield capacity, which is fine, we'll take it, and +2 power to all subsystems, which ain't much, but hey, I mean, every little bit counts. And remember I mentioned about aux power, so that's a thing that we're going to learn about here in a little bit. And we've kind of got a two-pronged spear on aux power coming up. So that's our engineering consoles. Brief recap. We have the Universal Assimilated Module. We have reinforced armaments. We have Quantum Phase Converter. And we have a Bioneural Gel Pack. Moving on to science, we have the Sustained Radiant Field. Now this one is, I can't remember, isn't this this is Tier 1 of the Iconian rep, if I remember correctly.
Ico rep, yes.
So I guess I lied. There's one extra thing you got to buy here, and yeah, it costs a little dill. The Tier 1 of the Iconian rep is not hard to get. You can get that just running some botsies, and you can slap this on your ship once you get it. The purpose behind running Sustained Radiant Field, hang on.
Resident Crayo is...
I'm taking drinks of water here because my throat's drying out. So the purpose behind Sustained Radiant Field is plus 10% all weapon damage, first and foremost. Let's get that out there. Darkblade, is that Cat 1 or Cat 2, or do you happen to know?
It's a Cat 1, I believe, but still very nice to have.
Right, definitely. And I think it goes up if you upgrade the console as well.
I believe so. It'll go up very slightly, but like I say, especially at the budget end, until you can get some greater tactical console stuff like that. It's something like that's always nice to have. Regardless.
Right, and plus, remember, we're on a very limited bridge officer seating ship here, so we don't get a whole lot of heals. This is plus 20% to hull heals and plus 20% to shield heals, which is, we kind of got to get everything we can here, out of a budget build. Our next console is definitely a free console, and that's the Temporal Disentanglement Suite. So Temporal Disentanglement Suite comes from Butterfly, which is one of the fun missions out there. Get to jump back and forth through time. And the purpose behind Temporal Entanglement Suite, hang on one second, take a drink of water. Purpose behind that console is it adds to auxiliary power, it adds to maximum shield capacity, but, and here's the interesting part, it adds a certain percent of critical chance and critical severity based on your auxiliary power level. So what you're going to want to do on this ship is you're going to drag the weapon power slider all the way as high as it'll go, you're going to lock that sucker. Then you're going to go over and do the same thing on the auxiliary power. And why are you going to do that? Because up to 2.5% crit chance and up to 10% crit severity. Plus, as an added bonus, this console reduces damage to shields by 3%. So everything we got here is helping our heals, it's helping reduce our shields, but it's also outputting an enormous amount of damage. And that's the key to a glass cannon, is you can't stick around to let the enemy shoot back at you. You gotta just blow them all to heck, and then in your opening volley, and then regroup and come back and start another attack run. And then for tactical consoles, we're gonna run as many as we can of the phaser relay, at the highest mark we can. Now, if you can get the Dyson phaser consoles, you're going to want to go for the, if I recall, the vulnerability locators, which are crit H, which is crit chance. As a tactical captain, if you are a tactical captain, you're going to have a lot of crit D anyway, and you're going to want as much crit chance. The more chance of it critting, the more that you actually get to use that crit D. So that's, but you can just run with the regular phaser relays, and you can get those actually as a mission reward on of signs and portents. So almost everything here is a mission reward. It's mentioned in the notes exactly what mission you can get it, how many times you'd have to run it, and so on and so forth. And we'll be posting those notes later. Now, I harped on aux power, and this is, I mentioned that it was a two-pronged spear, but I only told you about one prong. So the other prong, and if you've watched this show, you've probably heard about it, is a space reputation ability that is, correct me if I'm wrong, Darkblade, it's Nukara?
That it is.
Nukara rep, so start working on your Nukara rep, and you want auxiliary power configuration. Lost my train of thought here. Offense.
Aux power
Yeah.
offense.
Auxiliary power configuration offense. Based on your auxiliary power, it gives you a damage and accuracy boost. So now we've got our aux power boosted all the way up. We've got our weapon power boosted all the way up. So we're getting just massive amounts of damage output here. And that's our first space reputation trait, is auxiliary power configuration offense from New Car Rep. And next one, we want the chrono capacitor array, because again, this reduces the recharge time of your bridge officer abilities. And we want to get those cooldowns down. And chrono defense comes from, which one, Darkblade? I'm sorry.
That is the temporal.
Temporal array. I was wanting to say Lucari, and I think they're basically the same. Our next space reputation trait is precision. This comes from the Romulan rep. Precision increases your critical hit chance in space combat. What good is critical damage if you're not making critical hits? Get that chance up. And our last space reputation trait, assuming you haven't unlocked your 5th slot, is advanced targeting systems. This one comes from Dyson rep, and this slightly increases your crit severity in space combat. Crit severity is good, but you got to have the crit chance to back it up. Of course, for your active reputation traits, you'd run the usuals that hopefully you've unlocked by now, but if not, you're working towards them. And for starship traits, and that brings up something else. I probably jumped ahead a little bit for your specializations on this. I like to run intel because space flanking is the bomb, and pilot because pilot gives you that wonderful rock and roll that lets you just basically dodge everything. And in a kind of a glass cannon, once in a while you need an oh crap button, and that's kind of your oh crap button, you know. And it can get you out of range of an enemy, and it can just sort of block all the damage and save you from blowing up. So you want to run intel, and you want to run pilot. So assuming that you've got your 30 in intel and your 15 in pilot, you should at least have predictive algorithms from the intel tree, and hopefully you've got pedal to the metal from your pilot tree. And pedal to the metal, since this is an escort, you know, you may want to slow down once in a while, but generally speaking, I think you want to be pretty much pedal to the metal. You want to blow all your cooldowns. You want to point the end of this thing at the enemy. You want to go in and just eradicate them, and then keep going. Go out of range. Wait for your cooldowns to cool down. Turn around, rinse and repeat. Wipe hands on pants. Here comes the science. All the memes. So, personal space traits. This is a pretty standard layout. An astrophysicist, that's not that's engineering, isn't it?
No, it's a free one that you
Is
can
it?
get.
Okay, so astrophysicist improves flow caps. Flow caps mean power transfer. Power transfer is what you want to keep your weapon power up. And I went with beam training and also cannon training because it does a small damage increase. I'm sure it's Cat 1.
That is actually Cat 2,
is it?
good sir.
Okay. So Cat 2 bonuses on beams and cannons. You got them both. And then elusive, which increases your ship's defense value because you really don't want to get shot alive. Innocuous increases crit severity and lowers your threat. Makes enemies less likely to attack you over other targets. Operative because crit chance, crit chance, crit chance, crit chance, and also crit severity. Point blank shot because the closer you get, and you're going to be danger close, you're going to be broken arrow close to the enemy in an escort with this kind of loadout, increases your damage, and whatever increases your damage is usually good. I also threw Fleet Coordinator on there because, I mean, what's the point if you're in a 5-man or a 20-man and you don't have 5 men fighting with you? You know, why not have that? And it doesn't hurt really your DPS that much if you're running single-user content. And then I may have picked the wrong one here, Darkblade. I chose Efficient Captain. Is that one that's available for everybody?
Yes, it is,
okay,
actually.
so Efficient Captain provides a bonus to warp core efficiency, improving all power levels. Always want those power levels up, much as you can. So let's look at, we've covered the weapons, we've covered the shields, we've covered the consoles, we've covered specs and traits. Let's look at what your bridge officers are doing. So, this ship comes with a Commander Tactical, Lieutenant Commander Tactical, Lieutenant Engineering, Lieutenant Engineering times 2, I should say, and an Ensign Science. So, from my perspective, we want top end of all the powers that we have, and this ship enables us to do that. For our Commander Tactical, in the 4th slot, we've got Cannon Scatter Volley 3, because of course it's an AoE, and you're not single target stuff is cool, I guess, but this thing is going to go and open a can of you know what on the enemy, and you want to do it to as many enemies in front of you as possible. So Cannon Scatter Volley 3 in your Commander slot. In your Lieutenant Commander slot, you've got Beam Fire at Will 3, and then in our Lieutenant slot, we've got Attack Pattern Beta. I'm a big fan of Beta since it debuffs the enemy or enemies that you're shooting at for everybody else. And in our Ensign slot, we have Tactical Team 1. So in our Lieutenant Commander Tactical, we have Torpedo Spread 3. This is our second bridge officer. Torpedo Spread 3. And Focused Assault 1 in the Lieutenant slot. Focused Assault's a freebie that you get, and it's not bad, especially when you come across those times where you're fighting a great big Voth ship and you just, everybody's shooting it and it's taking forever. Add some Focused Assault and, it'll help. And then in our Ensign slot, TAC Team 1. In our Lieutenant's Engineering, I should say, we've got Emergency Power to Weapons 2, because later on down the road, you're going to get a trait that's going to increase your weapon firing cycle haste every time you run Emergency Power to Weapons. And plus, Emergency Power to Weapons can either bring your weapon power up, or it can bring it back from the brink of it being gone due to a debuff. Emergency Power to Shields 1 in the Ensign slot. That's our first Lieutenant Engineering. Second Lieutenant Engineering has, in the Lieutenant slot, Auxiliary Power to the Structural Integrity Field 1, because Hull Heal we desperately need. And Engineering Team 1 to clear debuffs and another Hull Heal that we desperately need, that thankfully doesn't share a cooldown with Aux to Sif. And in our Ensign Science, Hazard Emitters. Hazard Emitters is more important to me than Transfer Shield Strength, because it clears those slowing plasma debuffs you get. It clears the Theta radiation from the Malon and different things like that. And there's just a lot of instances where that's useful. So that's our build, and it's just an all damage focused budget build. It's not going to cost you very much at all. It's going to cost you one console in the ICO rep, and you could probably technically forego that if you really wanted to. And it's going to cost you a red matter capacitor, which you should have anyway. No matter what you're doing, you should have it. It's practically free. And then let's see, what else is it? And the board console. Most people are going to already have board rep if they've been playing a while, and if they haven't, they may have picked the board to start with since it's at the top of the list, or at least it was until Victory's Life. And even then, it's not hard to get. You can run ISAs all day long and get that board rep. So, all in all, very inexpensive, but also, if you can get your piloting right, if you can keep the pointy end of this thing towards the bad guys, you got it made. And that's my budget build.
Yeah, seems like a very decent build. Like I say, it's makes a very good theme build. Normally, you don't see a lot of people mixing cannons and beams. This is one of the few ships, I believe, that, like you're saying, if you get your piloting down right, can actually pull it off, can make use of it. Especially with that bridge officer setup, which, like I say, that's my only gripe I've ever had with the Steam Runner, is the bridge officer layout. I wish there was a bit more flexibility there.
And that is really the key to this build, is you've got to keep it pointed at the enemy. If you can't do that, it's not going to do much for you. But if you can go in, guns hot, guns a-blazing, the best defense is a good offense to me. This whole concept of tanking, I don't know, I just can't get around it. I tanked in WoW, but in this game, I just want to kill him in the opening volley and move on to the next set, you know what I mean? And this build does that. Now, granted, I use a little bit higher end gear, but this is how you do it. This is the start, and you can swap that stuff out with the higher end stuff as you get it.
He loves to throw me under the bus, folks. But
I am kind of worried that the hull scraping from the Bajoran set may actually throw everything off if you get into a large cluster of enemies, but I'm not sure how you're exactly flying, if you're like flying right through the middle of the enemies while you're doing your strafe run, or if you're playing like a turret. So,
well, what I do, and I actually don't use the Bajor defense set personally, I use the Iconian set, but I needed a good free set for an escort, and this is a dandy one. But what I generally do is I just fly at the enemy, and I have my utility bar, my button bar, lined up in such a way that the longest timeout abilities are fired first, and then the shortest timeout abilities. And I get my timing down to a point where the enemy comes into range as I'm using my last cooldown. I just face roll the keyboard, I mash spacebar, and I let the weapons do all the work. And if everything is at least in front of you, it's gonna wear everything down and just blow it all to heck. So the only thing you're gonna scrape, if you're lucky, if you do it right, the only thing you're gonna scrape is warp core breaches.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep. Basically, think of it somewhat like a World War II fighter pilot strafing the deck of an aircraft carrier.
Right.
Something like that is basically what you're looking for here. If you can master that, then you're doing good.
Scene in the 2009 Star Trek movie where he yells "Fire everything"? That's kind of what you're going to want to do because you have everything to fire.
Yeah, that's true. But anyways, that's what we have for a budget build this evening. It's we wanted to take a break from the more traditional builds that we do and touch base on a theme build this week because we do like to mix things up once in a while here. But anyways, as far as our Bugs Corner this week, again, not really a lot I can discuss on there. We've been looking at some of the reputation stuff that is on Tribble at the moment. We're going to be looking at some of the Discovery stuff once we get our hands on that. And we've been able to get some pretty nasty bugs fixed for you guys. And hopefully we'll be able to see some more get fixed before it hits. But yeah. Anyways, that's what we've got this week for you guys. But on our way out, a shout out to our friends over at the Temporal Armada. Very cool bunch of people. Definitely check out their radio program as well. Also a shout out to our other good friends over at the Kurtang Pirate Radio. The party is there, and got some pretty good music over there. If you have any requests for budget builds, feel free to let us know. We do all kinds of builds, whether it's a theme build, whether it's a tank build, a damage dealer, a science wizard, whatever you're looking to do. Try to help you out. Just let us know, hey, this is the ship I've got, this is the budget level I'm working with, and we'll hook you up. If you think that your gear and your skills and your traits are in order, and maybe you just need to learn how to fly certain missions a little bit better, feel free to drop us a video of your piloting, and we'll review your piloting in a mission and see if we can't help you make some improvements there. If you've got any requests as well for the RP Corner for Artie, feel free to let him know, and he may just talk about your topic on air. Finally, if you have any requests for the Bugs Corner, maybe need some help with a bug, let me know. I'll try to help you with that. And if you got any bugs, feel free to pass them along. We'll see to it that the devs get them. But, yeah. Anyways, that's what we have for a show this evening, folks. For now, this is the Pilot Review Show reminding you to have your tribbles spayed or neutered. Goodbye, everybody.
This has been an SARoss Internet Television production.